boys and girls. This is Mrs. Martin again, and welcome to Story Corner. We had a little technical difficulty with the last video. It got cut short before we were finished with Chapter 8, and we still have a couple pages to go. So we're going to continue reading Chapter 8. We're going to pick up right where we left off. This was Peter in the restroom at his dad's work, just sort of thinking about how disappointed he is that Fudge is going to get to star in that commercial and he's not. Janet sent down to the coffee shop for some sandwiches and drinks. After we ate, we all walked to another section of the agency where the cameras were set up. A make-believe street sign was in the background. The Toddle bike was shiny red. My father told Fudge all he had to do was ride it around. Fudge liked that. He zoomed all over the place. Vroom, 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 he called. My father, Mr. Vincent, and Janet sat on folding chairs and watched the action. I sat on the floor at my father's side. Mr. Denberg was the director. He said, "Okay, Fudge, we're ready to begin now. You ride the Toddle bike where I tell you, and I'll take a picture of you doing it. All right?" "No," Fudge said. "What does he mean, Hatcher?" Mr. Vincent asked. "Why did he say no?" My father groaned. "Look, George, using Fudge was your idea, not mine." Mr. Denberg tried again. "Okay, Fudge, this is it." The cameraman said, "Start riding this way. Ready, set, go." Fudge sat there on the Toddle bike, but he wouldn't pedal. "Come on, kid, let's go," the cameraman called. "No, don't want to," Fudge answered. "What's with this kid, Mr. Hatcher?" the cameraman asked. "Fudge," my father said, "do what the nice man tells you to do." "No, don't have to." Janet whispered to my father, "How about some cookies, Mr. Hatcher?" "Good idea, Janet," my father told her. "I have some Oreos right here," she said, patting her pocketbook. "Shall I give them to him?" "One at a time," my father said. Janet walked across the room to Fudge. He was still sitting on the Toddle bike. "If you do what the nice man says, you can have a cookie," Janet told him. "Show me," Fudge said. Janet held up the box of Oreos. She was really well prepared, I thought. She must eat all day long, what with the crackers shaped like goldfish and a whole box of Oreos, too. I wonder what else she had in that pocketbook. "Give me," Fudge said. Janet held up one cookie. Fudge reached for it, but Janet didn't let him get it. "If you do what the nice man tells you, you can have an Oreo, maybe even 2 or 3. "First cookie," Fudge said. "First, do what the nice man says," Janet told him. "No, first cookie." "Give him one, Janet," Mr. Denberg called. "We haven't got all day to fool around." Janet gave Fudge one Oreo. He ate it up. "Okay, kid, all ready now?" the cameraman said. "You ride over to me." Fudge didn't do it. Mr. Vincent was losing his patience. "Hatcher," he hollered, "you get that son of yours to ride my Toddle bike or I'm taking my whole account away from you and your agency." "Must I remind you, George, using Fudge was your idea, not mine," my father said. "Forget about whose idea it was, Hatcher. He's your kid. You better get through to him now." "I have an idea," my father said. He walked to the corner of the room and beckoned to the others. Mr. Denberg and Mr. Vincent gathered around, along with the cameraman and Janet. They looked like a bunch of football players huddled together talking about the next play. Soon, my father called me. "Peter, would you join us, please?" "Sure, Dad," I said. "What is it?" "Peter, we want you to ride the Toddle bike for us, to show Fudge how it's done." "But he already knows how to ride," I said. "Didn't you see him zooming around?" "He won't do it for the cameras, though," my father explained, "so we need your help." "Will I be in the commercial too?" I asked. "Well, the Toddle bike is really for very young children," Mr. Denberg said. "Otherwise, we'd have you do it in a minute." I got the message. It was like buying the shoes and at like Dr. Brown's office. They were going to use me to get Fudge to do what they wanted him to do. I wonder how anybody would ever manage my brother without my help. I walked over to Fudge and told him I was going to ride the Toddle bike. "Get off," I said. Fudge held onto the bike. "No, mine." "It's not yours," my father told him. But Fudge wouldn't move for anything. He closed his eyes and screamed. Can he scream loud when he tries? So my father had to pull him off the Toddle bike. Fudge kicked and kept screaming, and I'll bet Mr. Vincent was sorry that he ever spotted my brother in the first place. I got on the Toddle bike. It was so small my knees practically touched the ground, but I managed to ride it around just where the cameraman told me to. "See how nice Peter can ride the Toddle bike," Janet said. Here, Peter, come have an Oreo. You did that so well. You can have 2 or 3 if you want. Fudge stopped screaming. Me, he said. What? My father asked him. Me ride, me. You can't ride as well as Peter can, Mr. Denberg said. Can so, Fudge told him. I don't think so, Mr. Denberg said. You already had a turd and you didn't do what I told you to do. Me! You want to try again? My father asked. Again, Fudge said. Again. Well, I don't know, Mr. Denberg said. Well, Mr. Vincent said, chewing on his cigar. Well, the cameraman said, scratching his head. Please, Fudge begged. I never heard my brother say please before. Mr. Denberg said, Okay, we'll give you one more chance. Fudge ran to the toddle bike. I got off and he jumped on. Now? He asked Mr. Denberg. Now, Mr. Denberg said. Ride this way, Fudge. Over here, toward me. Fudge did as he was told. Just like PETA, he said. See? Just like PETA. Janet gave him a kiss on the cheek. Janet gave me a kiss on my cheek. You saved the day, Peter Hatcher, she said. When she wasn't looking, I wiped off my face. Her kiss was too juicy. And that concludes Chapter 8, titled The TV Star. I wonder what Mrs. Hatcher is going to say when she finds out about the adventures at Dad's office. I hope that you've been enjoying Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing. Tune in for Chapter 9. Bye-bye, boys and girls.